I think we can get policy and perhaps an ETF backed by Bitcoin sometime in the first 6 months of 2023. That's why you got to be long now. You have to, in my view, you want to be ahead of the market.
A really great point, because one of the things that we're looking at as we analyze the market is that there's a large confluence of factors both inside and outside of crypto coming together. First and foremost, you have interest rates. They've had a huge impact on Bitcoin. We're seeing 75 basis point interest rate hikes. Next meeting, September 20th to the 21st, the next FOMC meeting, we may end up seeing 75 basis points. CME is leaning in that direction with 60% likelihood. So if we see 75 basis points, okay, well then we haven't plateaued interest rates. But if we see 50, and if not at this meeting, maybe the next meeting, we see 50 basis point rate hike, the Fed could start tapering that interest rate hike, maybe start printing money again in the next 12 months. The last time we saw that happen, despite a recession in the first half of 2020, we saw Bitcoin explode 1,500% in the span of 250 days, up to $65,000. So we have the potential over the next 3 months of seeing rate hikes taper, and over the next 6 to 12 months, the printer coming back online. On top of that, we have the Ethereum 2.0 merge slated to happen on September 19th. Now it's been delayed 3 years, but if that does happen, that would be equivalent to basically a Bitcoin halving, with the amount of new Ethereum being its inflation slowed down by some project between 90 and 98%. That would be huge for the tokenomics of Ethereum. Then on the geopolitical front, you also, as you said, you have midterms coming up, and the House may flip, and Republicans seem to be much more open to kind of a libertarian stance of crypto, say, hey, let it develop and grow. You also have all the different factors that you just mentioned. In the next 6-12 months, are we going to see this catalytic event, this inflection point, where Bitcoin's downward movement since November 10th, when we hit all-time high last year, are we going to see that start turning around back into a bull market, because the fundamentals of Bitcoin are so much stronger today than they were 12 months ago, despite the price being 70% lower?
I agree with you, but the thing that's holding Bitcoin back, everything you said there is correct. I'm not sure about, ETH 2.0, because, wow, they keep bringing dates and coming and going. It hasn't happened yet. I'm a bit of a
I'll believe it when I
skeptic,
see it, yeah.
But yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. And I've talked to some of the proponents, and there's a lot of people that are conflicted on that situation. Bringing down gas fees is not in everybody's favor. Obviously, if you're collecting the fees, you like them as they are. But I think it doesn't matter. These projects are all worth owning because you don't know who's going to win. But when it comes to Bitcoin, the floodgates themselves is compliance infrastructure at the sovereign fund level, the Norway fund, the Saudis, the United Arab Emirates, our own states, pension plans. If we were calling that asset, whatever we're going to call it, a commodity or a security, and we got that done, I don't care which direction it goes, why wouldn't you be allocating to any portfolio a portion to Bitcoin, just like you would for real estate, just like you would for stocks, just like you would for bonds? That would really change the dynamic on Bitcoin. And when that happens, you have to make a decision. Do you get ahead of that curve, not knowing when that actually is going to occur? Or do you wait until it occurs? Because it'll be, in terms of price appreciation, I believe it'll be dramatic. It'll be dramatic. You could have a gap up 10, 15, 20, 25% overnight because you've opened up trillions of dollars worth of access to a new asset class. That doesn't happen too often. And I think all of the productivity and all the people that are working on the blockchain and all the projects out there, and I always remind people, Bitcoin is not a coin, it's software. There's lots of really smart guys leaving colleges that are engineering and moving to the United Arab Emirates or the Caribbean islands. They don't stay stateside because they don't have any policy. So all that intellectual capital could come back stateside. There'll be a lot of things happening once we get policy, once we get regulation. And I think you're right. The timing is probably 6-12 months, but Katie, bar the doors when that happens. It's going to be really wild.
Being someone with a lot of background in software, I'm sure you've heard of the S-curve of adoption, where different technologies, the internet, indoor plumbing, microwaves, personal phones, cars, Google, anything, kind of just goes through this period of really fast growth. And we've talked a lot about the S-curve adoption on this channel, and a lot of times the S-curve adoption happens at around 7 to 12% adoption of the broader community that ever would adopt it. So let's say 3 billion people will adopt Bitcoin at one point. By the time you get to 7, 10, 12% of that takes off like crazy, and you ramp up to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80%. market penetration in the span of just a very short period of time. And a lot of people have been looking for this inflection point on Bitcoin back in 2020. Oh man, was that the inflection point when Bitcoin was going up to 65? Were we going to moonshot straight to 500K because that's the beginning? I don't think that inflection point has happened. I think, you know, there are different numbers that people present. Oh, we've got 10%, 15%, 20% adoption of Bitcoin. Maybe that many people have bought $5 of Bitcoin on Robinhood, or they've opened a Coinbase account, but the number of people that are actually building part of their lifestyle in crypto, I imagine you'd agree on that, it's probably 1 to 2% of the global community that has internet access. The S-curve of adoption is something that I've been really fascinated by over the last several years. When you see Bitcoin getting up to $100, $200, $300,000, and we start seeing, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 times more people in crypto than we saw in the first half of 2021, is that when that inflection point is going to happen? And then game over, we're in 2001, 2002, 2003 for the internet, but this time in crypto.
Well, you're right. The theory of the inflection point is somewhere sort of 7 to 15%, and then it accelerates. I don't care what technology you look at. That has been the case, including all the way back to pornography. So, I mean, it goes back to when the adoption occurs and how fast it ramps afterwards. But I'll tell you, there's two things holding us up right now. Let's stay specific on Bitcoin. The wallet infrastructure, whether you go centralized or decentralized, is shit. It's just not good. And I'll tell you, I don't mean, excuse my French, it is shit. And the reason I say that is it doesn't hook up to the existing compliant infrastructure for institutional investors. When they buy Bitcoin, it's very difficult for them to plug it in to their portfolio mandates, because all of the other assets, the majority of them, get marked to market at 4:01 in the afternoon, New York time. That's not the case for Bitcoin. It just keeps trading 24/7, as we all know. So there's a disconnect to the way that their own compliance departments say, well, how do I monitor this for 24/7 trading? If you're using leverage, for example, or you're not allowed to own more than 5%, or you're not allowed to own more than 20%. There's all these rules by which institutions have to be compliant. So when I talk to these guys about, and the women who manage these funds, they say, look, I'd love to own some Bitcoin, but there's nowhere to fit it in. I don't have any infrastructure. The wallets aren't secure. You saw the Solana hack again. I mean, we got a lot of work to do as an industry to clean it up, whether you believe in the centralized or decentralized model. I don't care. I use them both myself. But I have to admit, like everybody else in the nascent days, I've been ripped off on a decentralized wallet till I got the joke on security. Now it's hard to do that to me. But you have to go through the learning curve, and a lot of institutions just want to plug and play. So you want that rapid adoption. Let's clean up the wallet system. I don't care, both centralized, decentralized. Let institutions decide what they want to do. You know, we heard the announcement that BlackRock's working with Coinbase. That's not going to really change much, because there's not many institutions that are going to use the fees that you know, Coinbase has. They'll probably go to FTX or Binance to do that. But I'm not saying Coinbase won't give an institutional pricing, but it doesn't matter. There's no demand yet. We need to fix the compliance that you plug in, whatever register you've got, whatever wallet you've got, works right into your system. And that's the kind of stuff I'm working on.